Okay, so Book 2, King Arthur. Book 2, Chapter 1, of a damosel which came girt with a sword for to find a man of such virtue to draw it out of the scabbard. After the death of Uther Pendragon reigned Arthur his son, the which had great war in his days for to get all England into his hand. For there were many kings within the realm of England, and in Wales, Scotland, and Cornwall. So it befell at a time when King Arthur was at London, there came a knight and told the king tidings how the king Rience of North Wales had reared a great number of people, and were entered into the land, and burnt and slew the king's true liege people. If this be true, said Arthur, it were great shame unto mine estates, but that we were mightily withstood. It is truth, said the knight, for I saw the host myself. Well, said the king, let make a cry, that all the lords, knights, and gentlemen of arms should draw unto a castle called Camelot. In those days, and the king would let make a council general and great joust. So when the king was come thither, of all his baronage, and lodged as they seemed best, there was come a damosel, the which was sent on message from the great lady Lily of Avalon. And when she came before King Arthur, she told from whom she came, and whom she was sent on message unto him for these causes. Then she let her mantle fall, that which was richly furred, and for the then that she was girt with a noble sword, whereof the king had marvel, and said, Damosel, for what cause are ye girt with the sword? It beseemeth you not. Now shall I tell you, said the damosel, this sword that I am girt withal doth me great sorrow and cumbrance. For I may not be delivered of this sword but by a knight, but he must be a passing good man of his hands and of his deeds, and without villainy or treachery, and without treason. And if I may find such a knight that hath all these virtues, he may draw out the sword out of the sheath. For I have been at King Rience's, it was told me there were passing good knights, and he and all his knights have assayed it, and none can speed. This is a great marvel, said Arthur. If this be sooth, I will myself assay to draw out the sword, not presuming upon myself that I am the best knight, but that I will begin to draw out your sword, and giving example to all the barons, that they shall assay every each, one after other. When I have assayed it, then Arthur took the sword by the sheath and by the girdle, and pulled it at it eagerly, but the sword would not out. Sir, said the damosel, you need not to fall half so hard, for he that shall fall it out shall do it with little might. Ye say to well, said Arthur, now say, ye all my barons, but beware ye be not defiled with shame, treachery, or guile. Then it will not avail, said the damosel, for he must be a clean knight without villainy, and of gentle strain of father side and mother side. Most of all the barons of the Round Table that were there in time assayed all by row, but there might none speed. Wherefore the damosel made great sorrow out of measure, and said, Alas, I ween in this court had been the best knights without treachery or treason. By my faith, said Arthur, here are good knights, as I deem, as any be in the world, but their grace is not to help you, wherefore I am disweaked. Chapter 2. How Balin, arrayed of a poor knight, pulled out the sword, which afterward was the cause of his death. Then fell it so that the time there was a poor knight of King Arthur that had been prisoner with him half a year, and more for slaying of a knight, the which was cousin unto King Arthur. The name of the knight was called Balin, and by good means of the barons he was delivered out of prison, for he was a good man, named of his body, and he was born in Northumberland. And so he went privily into the court, and saw this adventure, whereof it raised his heart, and he would have saved another knights did. But for he was poor and poorly arrayed, it put him not far in press, but in his heart he was fully assured to do as well, if his grace happed him, as any knight that there was. And as the damosel took her leave of Arthur and of all the barons, so departing, this knight Balin called unto her, and said, Damosel, I pray you of your courtesy, suffer me as well to say, as these lords, though that I be so poorly clothed. In my heart, meseemeth, I am fully assured as some of the others, and meseemeth in my heart his speed right well. The damosel beheld the poor knight, and saw he was a likely man, but this poor arrayment she thought she should be of no worship without villainy or treachery. And then she said unto the knight, Sir, it needeth not to put me to more pain or labour, for it seemeth not you to speed there as other have failed. Ah, fair damosel, said Balin, worthiness and good tatches and good deeds are not only in arrayments, but manhood and worship is hid within man's person, and many a worshipful knight is not known unto all people, and therefore worship and hardiness is not known in arrayment. My God, said the damosel, ye say sooth, therefore ye shall say to do what ye may. Then Balin took the sword by the girdle and sheath, and drew it out easily, and he looked on the sword, it pleased him much. Then had the king and all the barons did marvel that Balin had done that adventure, and many knights had great despite of Balin. Certes, said the damosel, this is a passing good knight, and the best that ever I found, and most of the worship without treason, treachery, or villainy, and many marvels shall he do. Now, gentle and courteous knight, give me the sword again. Nay, said Balin, for this sword will I keep, but it be taken from me with force. Well, said the damosel, ye are not wise to keep the sword from me, for ye shall slay with the sword the best friend that ye have, and the man that ye most love in this world, and the sword shall be your destruction. I shall take the adventure, said Balin, that God will ordain me, that the sword ye shall not have at this time. By the faith of my body, ye shall repent it within short time, said the damosel, for I would have the sword more for your avail than for mine, for I am passing heavy for your sake, for ye will not believe that sword shall be your destruction, and that it is great pity. With that the damosel departed, making great sorrow. Anon after Balin sent forth his horse and armor, and so would depart from the court, and took his leave of King Arthur. Nay, said the king, I suppose ye will not depart so lightly from the fellowship. I suppose ye are displeased that I have shewed you unkindness. Blame me the less, for I am misinformed against you. I weened ye had not been such a knight as ye are of worship and prowess, and if ye will abide in this court among my fellowship, I shall so advance you as you shall be pleased. God thank you, highness, said Balin. You must needs depart, beseeching your way of your good grace. Truly, said the king, I am right wroth for your departing. I pray you, fair knight, that ye tarry not long, and ye shall be right welcome to me and to my barons, and I shall amend all miss that I have done against you. God thank you, your great lordship. The knights of Round Table said that Balin did not this adventure all only by might, but by witchcraft. Chapter 3. How the lady of the lake demanded the knight's head that had won the sword, or the maiden's head. The meanwhile that his knight was making him ready to depart, there came into a court a lady that hight the Lady of the Lake, and she came on horseback richly beseen, and saluted King Arthur, and there asked him the gift that he promised her, when she gave him the sword. That is truth, said Arthur, the gift I promised you, but I have forgotten the name of my sword you gave me. The name of it, said the lady, is Excalibur. That is as much to say as that steel. You say, well, said the king, ask what you will, and you shall have it, and it lie in my power to give it. Well, said the lady, I ask the head of the knight that hath won the sword, or else the damosel's head that brought it. They take no force, though I have both their heads, for he slew my brother, a good knight and a true, and that gentle woman was causer of my father's death. Truly, said King Arthur, I may not grant neither of their heads with my worship, therefore ask, where you will else, and I shall fulfill your desire. I will ask none other thing, said the lady. When Balin was ready to depart, he saw the Lady of the Lake, that by her means had slain Balin's mother, and he had sought her 3 years. And when it was told him that she asked his head of King Arthur, he went to her straight and said, Evil be you found, ye would have my head, and therefore you shall lose yours. And with his sword lightly he smote off her head before King Arthur. Alas, for shame, said Arthur. Why have ye done so? Ye have shamed me and all my court. For this was a lady that I was beholden to, and hither she came under my safe conduct. I shall never forgive you that trespass. Sir, and Balin, me forthinketh of your displeasure, for this same lady was an untruest lady, living by enchantment and sorcery. She hath been the destroyer of many good knights, and she causes that my mother was burnt, through her falsehood and treachery. But causesoever ye had, said Arthur, ye should have forborne her in my presence. Therefore think not the contrary. Ye shall repent it for such another in despite, had I never in my court. Therefore withdraw you out of my court in all haste ye may. Then Balin took up the head of the lady, and bare it with him to his hostelry, and there he met with his squire that was sorry he had displeased King Arthur, and so they rode forth after the town. And now, said Balin, we must depart, take thou this head, and bear it to my friends, and tell them how I have sped, and tell my friends in Northumberland, and my most foe is dead. Also tell them how I am out of prison, and what adventure befell me at taking of the sword. Alas, said the squire, ye are greatly to blame, for to displease King Arthur. As for that, said Balin, I will hie me in all the haste, and I may to meet with King Rience, and destroy him, either else to die therefore. And if it may hap me to win him, then will King Arthur be my good gracious lord. Where shall I meet with you, said the squire, and King Arthur's court, said Balin. So his squire and he departed at the time. Then the Lady of the Lake, and the king buried her richly.